Greetings and welcome to Chat TV with Tracy and Betty. We are so excited to have you join us this morning. We have a wonderful, phenomenal guest in Mr. Mikhail Muhammad, the minister and leader of the Nubians United for Self-Defense, all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. And we're going to discuss this morning about gun violence and as gun violence over the bridges. That means from A to Z, from every state that's been touched by this horrible gun violence. And we're going to talk to Mr. Muhammad and see how he and his team are leading the way to stop this gun violence in Jacksonville and spreading the news, the good news of how to stop it in other cities and states across America. Good morning, Miss Betty. How are you?
Good morning, Tracy. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Well,
Muhammad. How's the weather in Jacksonville?
Good morning. The weather in Jacksonville is excellent. We're going to have 80 degrees weather. I'm sorry to disappoint you all, but you all can keep the snow.
Okay, we'll like the sunshine. Can you send some our way?
No, we're going to keep it all to ourselves.
oh, my.
Oh, Mr.
They don't want
Yes,
to share that sunshine. Well,
not
we'll
at
It's
get
all.
not
ours.
fair,
We'll
Miss
wait
Betty, is
patiently.
it? We'll
We'll
That's
wait
right.
patiently wait our turn.
patiently. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. So this morning we're on board to talk about gun violence over the bridges. We have been suffering in these years, months, decades of gun violence across America. So, as we are suffering through this COVID pandemic, uh, which has taken many lives, we want to talk also about something that was here long before COVID that has taken so many lives in communities, basically, most of the time in communities of color, representing mostly Black, brown, yellow people in oppressed neighborhoods where resources are not plentiful. So we called on one soldier, and we'll probably do many more shows about who is the soldiers in the community taking care of their community and trying to help decrease the gun violence as well as help with food and other necessities that the people in the communities need. Some upbringing, some support, some people that look like us, who stand in the gap between the government's givings and those in the community who are handing out everything that they think people need out of the love for their own people. So at this time, I'd like to have Mr. Muhammad introduce himself as from whence he is from and how he got involved in the organization to start helping in his neighborhood. And I'll give you a minute to discuss that, Mr. Muhammad, because we have so many other questions to ask you. Go right ahead.
My name is Minister Mikhail Muhammad from Jacksonville, Florida, leader of the Nubians United for Self-Defense, formerly National Assistant in the new Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. I've been in a community for 30 plus years. And in the year 2019, I started a new organization, which basically is a spinoff from the new Black Panthers, but a little bit of tampering here and there. So down here in Florida, in the South, we have a major problem with black on black genocide, homicide, self-hatred. And therefore, we're working with other organizations to bring about complete constructive change.
So, Mr. Muhammad, I thank you for that introduction that you gave us. It gives us a segue into asking you questions about what you're doing in your community. And you are a soldier with boots on the ground in your community, not just once a month, but daily in your community with your organization, helping to give the things that are needed, that are necessities, food, teachings with the young people, um, watching out and looking over and caring for the elderly in your neighborhood as well, but doing some things that the federal government is not doing in your neighborhoods. So, can you expound upon that which your organization does with boots on the ground against gun violence and other
Well,
oppressive factors?
we have a program called Black Youth Movement. It's a mentorship program. Um, Last summer, for the whole summer, at least 3 days a week, we would host a youth, and we had anywhere from 75 to 125, maybe 150. We would feed them, we would mentorship, we would encourage them uh, to deal with their problems and the conflict resolution that many of them are not receiving. And we found that they're willing, they're ready, but again, most of the organizations doesn't have programs that really can address the violence in our communities. It was well received. So what we're doing with that program now, due to school being back, we do the program every other Saturday, and we're still getting the numbers. And we have adopted a community probably about a half a mile away from our meeting location. And in that area, we saw a lot of gang violence, but now it's starting to subside. And we have to believe that the program we have in that particular location is working, because we're getting phone calls from young people when they're having conflicts with one another. Minister McKell, can you and your organization come in and be a mediator? And so
Wow.
we're off and running. We're looking forward to the summer so we can pick up the pace. We're working with other organizations. April the 17th, we're going to have community walkthroughs in several locations in Jacksonville with attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. We're building a Black United Front with various organizations that we can work hand in hand together. So you have another organization that addresses employment issues, because a lot of the youth are looking for jobs. They want to work, but there are not many doors that are open. So we're saying to these uh, companies, adopt the youth. If you want to see a reduction in the criminal behavior, you have to employ them. We have to develop mechanisms for job training programs. A lot of our young people don't want to go to college. They're not college material, but we find that others are desiring to get trades. So we're directing them in every arena so that they can decide to make a better choice. A lot of times we get calls from the parents after they have been arrested, after they have been killed, and I always say to the parents and the relatives, we're not miracle makers and we definitely not jailbreakers. So bring them to us, allow us to come in. We're not a religious group. We're a political machine. We're a liberation organization. And so we can work with any organization from whence comes from the Black community.
And what I'm hearing you say, you're a diversified group of
Yes,
individuals who come from all faiths, all walks, to welcome in
yes,
people who can be an example to the youth. You're asking organizations to come hire our youth so that they don't have to sit home twiddling their fingers wondering what trouble or what things can I do, activities involved. Your activities, teaching life skills, conflict resolutions, and setting example. And let me just ask you, the men involved, is it men and women that you're working with in your neighborhood?
yes, correct, men and women.
hmm So it's just not for
Yes,
the males, it's for all. But there
right.
are many men
Yes,
and women who are also in your organization that you can
correct.
refer the youth to when they need help on different issues. Am I
Yes,
correct? So let's
that
talk
is
about
correct.
this gun violence and statistics over the United States. We don't want to leave that out. We looked
That's
at
right.
in research mass shootings statistics by the month. Let's just start with January and February. We're now in March. Those statistics will come out. But mass shootings in the United States was 35 in January, went up to 41 in February. The other thing, the total number of people killed was 29 in January, went up to 49 in February. The total number wounded, though, was 54 in January and 145 in February. How many occurred at the schools or colleges? In January, thank God there were none. In February, thank God there were none. But let me ask you, Mr. Muhammad, what seems to be the relationship between you and the administrators of your city in these neighborhoods where there are hot spots of gun violence and killings and injuries? How are you all working with the governmental officials in your neighborhood to decrease the gun violence there?
Well, it's a difficult relationship, I can say. The state of Florida has the highest mass shootings of any state in the United States of America. It's a slow process. We have a new administration of city council, and it's very difficult getting a meeting with them. Normally, they want to sit down after there's an incident. What we're saying to them, we don't want to be reactionary. We want to be proactive. We want to develop mechanisms that we can redirect the anger and the frustration amongst our young people and the black community in general. So we're saying, let's come
Mhm.
up with a strategy. Uh, we need a Marshall Plan, an economic plan. No doubt, most of the anger, the violence is geared at unemployment. You have single mothers that are raising children, carrying a heavy burden. We're saying to our government, you can do better, you can do more. We're willing to work with them, but they have to understand that we have the solutions, but we need the economics. That's what
Mhm.
we need
And
from them.
Tracy will
We
let
know
you
how to address
ask.
them.
Thank you so much for that. The
Hmm.
economics
Yes.
happens to be
Hmm.
the basic issue in gun violence in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Tracy, I'll let you come in at this time. I'm sure you have something you are eager to find out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the wealth of information you've shared with us thus far, Mr. Muhammad. My question is kind of twofold. What age group do you have a target age group of children or youth that you're dealing with? Or is it just you want them all to come from the youngest to the oldest to meet them where they are? And as far as your strategy to work with the new government that's in place, are they giving you a hard way to go in reference to not wanting to meet with you because you want to be proactive, or is that they don't have or haven't set aside a specific time or way to strategize with you guys?
Well, we start with the age of 7 and we go up into the
Wow.
20s. We deal with 7 to the 20s, mid 20s. That's where you'll find a lot of the young men and young women that are engaged in criminal behavior. So we believe that if we start at the age of 7, we can redirect a lot of them, get them involved in positive programs and activities. We find out that a lot of them want to engage in positive things, but we have lack of resources. A lot of times we hear the mothers can't afford the fee to get involved with a program. So we believe that the government should step in and help if they're truly sincere. If they're not, then we will see a continuation of the self destruction until collectively black organizations, churches, mosques, and others decide to join hands, join forces, unite, pool our resources, and develop and help our own youth, because at the end of the day, we are definitely responsible for them more than anyone else. It is our job and duty to direct our young people. Um, Recently, I had a meeting with one city council member. This is the first meeting I've had in about 5 years. And so we're looking forward to
Wow.
meeting again. How can we get the resources? How can we defund the police? Not totally defund, but redirect a lot of the money that's going into law enforcement and direct it into the community. Because once we
Mm-hmm.
reform the mindset of the young people, we won't need as much law enforcement in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
So,
I heard you mention that the mothers are not there, single mothers are working because of such low wages. They have to work two and three jobs to
Yes.
make ends meet, and that's just basic ends meet.
Right.
That's not supporting your child to go into a program or any auxiliary situations. You're just talking about the basics of having food, shelter, and clothing. So if the
That's
mother
right.
is working, the father is working, or if one or two parents are absent from the equation, the kids that you mentioned earlier, 14, 17, 17, and 18, for young folks who were involved in that killing, and I want you to expound upon that so that we can hear that. They were involved. This is a situation we wanted to talk about when we come back after commercial, because I want you to explain that situation again so that we can certainly have it recorded for the record of somehow some of these teenagers are getting involved in things they shouldn't be involved in. So we want you, audience, to come right back here after you get something to snack on.
Please join us on Chat TV, WMCN TV for Thursdays every month. If you want to brand or be a guest, please contact Betty at 302-565-9942 or 23psbj@gmail.com. See disclaimer at end of program.
Welcome back, everyone, to Chat TV with Tracy and Betty. Let's go on with our guest, Mr. Muhammad. We're talking about gun violence over the bridges. And Mr. Muhammad is from Jacksonville, Florida, where he's putting boots on the streets in his community to help decrease violence, to help teach youth how to solve conflicts, how to train youth for job ready, how to feed the hungry, to try to get jobs, employment, and all of those things, and how to change the minds of our youth when they think that a popular thing is the way to go, such as music telling you who to kill, how to kill, sex violence, and destruction. So, Mr. Muhammad, please come and talk to us about these four teenagers that you had to have an incident in your community in Jacksonville, Florida, that involved gun violence.
Well, as I said, one was 14-year-old girl. She was a getaway driver. Two were 17. One was 18. They went to a drug house, and when the occupant opened the door, one of the teenage suspects started shooting, killed all three occupants. Uh, they were chased 3 miles, and eventually they were caught. And all four came from broken homes. They didn't have fathers in the homes. They had criminal records. The mothers were working two or more jobs. Therefore, they were left alone, like you said, twiddling their fingers and trying to figure out what to get involved with. And unfortunately, three people were killed. They went to an apartment complex that's notorious for violence and drug activity. And at the time, this took place at night, police was on a gang stakeout, probably about a block away, when the four suspects sped away and they were caught.
well, Mr. Muhammad, so you said from between the ages of 14 and the rest of the other three were 17?
Two was 17, one was 18.
Were they all charged as adults?
Yes, they were charged as adult, capital murder, conspiracy to
Hmm.
commit murder. The 18-year-old is facing a death penalty. The other three
Wow.
teenagers, they'll get a mandatory 25 years, and then after 25, the courts would review whether they have been rehabilitated, and if so, they would be released. If not, they would keep them indefinitely.
But is there any type of contact with the youth once they've been incarcerated to reach back to the youth who are not incarcerated to be able to help them to realize, hey man, or hey, girl, this is not what you want to do. Not necessarily like a scared straight, but kind of almost before you need to be scared straight.
Well, I have to tell you, they have eliminated those programs in the state of Florida. No longer do they
Wow.
have
That's
that type of
that's
program for
horrible.
whatever
Ooh.
reason. Yes, yes. A lot of times the young men get out of prison, they come back, and if they don't involve them in programs, the rate of return is rapid. It's a sure shot that they'll go back to prison if they don't get killed. We've had cases where they get out of prison, get out of jail, and a couple of days later they're shot to death. It's
Yeah,
very,
unfortunately, that's usually
yeah.
the case in a lot of the cities around the country.
Right, definitely.
Mhm.
So what we're trying to say is allow us to work with these young boys and young men before they come back, and even the
Yes.
young women before they come back into a
Yes.
general society.
hmm And there again, you
Yes.
need finances, you need
Right.
funds to support
Yes.
your programs so that you can
Yes.
expand and enlarge your territory. To set examples for healing, for instance, starting there at the basics. What's hurting you? What's making you so angry? Why are you in such a rage? Why do you think the first thing that you should go to is the gun instead of trying to sit down and talk to one another? Conflict resolution, and those testimonies that are necessary. For instance, as Tracy said, Scared Straight, that was a good program. As far as I could see,
Yes.
that was a good program across the country. That if I
Right.
went to jail, I can come back and help you to understand that this is not the right road to choose to stay on. There needs to be a change. And organizations like yours, Mr. Muhammad, can show them how to change gradually. Yes, you're full of rage, you're angry. Here in Delaware, we have an organization called Stop the Violence Prayer Chain Foundation. We see on the street, we boots on the streets, directed by Pastor Margaret P. Guy. And when we go to the streets, there's pain. There is pain
Yes.
from the parents, the siblings, the relatives, friends, old elderly people who can't even sit on their porches in this nice weather because of gun violence. And so the pain is compiled. And so my question to you, Mr. Muhammad, when you receive a teenager, a young person, young adult, be it male or female, be it black, white, or yellow, when you receive them, what is the protocol when you see someone coming in with so much rage in them? What is some of the first things that you do with them?
The first thing we do is deal with prayer, irregardless of whatever religious affiliation they have. We start with prayer, and we start with encouraging and supporting them and letting them know it's never too late. Just the other day, about 6 days ago, I encountered two young men in a supermarket. They were arguing. Uh, how would I say? They were at odds with each other, and they were threatening one another with gun violence, and both of them had weapons. And I stepped in and I calmed both of the young men down, and eventually we walked outside, and I had them go to their cars and put the guns up. Then we went back and we stood and we prayed. Then I said, "What is the problem?" He said, "Oh, he's messing with my girlfriend." I said, "Listen, brothers, it's probably a possibility that both of y'all are dealing with the same woman." I said, "It's too many fish in the sea. So why would you want to kill your brother over a woman when you can find another? So what happened? I got the phone contacts and I invited them out to a poetry contest. It was called Positive Vibes. They came to the event. We fed them. It was probably about 80 something youth. We had positive people that spoke poetry, others that rapped. We had African dance, and the two young men decided that they wanted to join the Black Youth Movement. And they said that they've never had a man to come in their life and show them any kind of love. They always been exploited. Get out here and sell me some crack. Get out here and rob me some peoples. So I was the first man that they met that really showed them some love and some concern. So I know that our young people can be turned away from this self-destructive behavior, but it's going to take a collective effort. We cannot be afraid of them. Once they sense you're afraid of them, they're not going to have any respect for you. We have to show love and we have to be God-fearing. And then they say, what do you know about this lifestyle? First of all, I grew up in the same neighborhood. But I was blessed to have a two-parent home that I came from. I had a father and a mother. So I can say I was one of the blessed and fortunate ones. And so I'm dedicated to reaching out and helping as many as I can and working with other organizations. So we have another group called Cure the Violence that deals with anger, conflict, resolution, and job employment. So
Amen.
this is
So I
another
thank
group
you.
that, yes.
So I thank you, Mr. Muhammad, for coming with us today. We're going to have to get you back here so that
Okay.
you can tell us the updates with your program. We want to
Oh,
thank
definitely.
the audience out there. This is some information that we need across America, across these bridges, gun violence across the bridges. We need to address these healing methods. These we need to talk about the music that the children are listening to and convincing them that violence and sex and destruction is okay. We need to talk about change with this new government that we have now. We're praying that there is change in these neighborhoods, yes, but the boots on the street in the neighborhood, helping self, helping our own is necessary. We want to thank Tracy for coming on this morning, my co-host, the best in the United States, and Mr. Ed
Oh,
Groves with NASCA. And we welcome you back here for Chat TV every fourth Thursday of the month at 9:30 a.m.